Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Hockey Talk with TG podcast. I'm Ty Glenn. Hopefully you guys are having a great Wednesday. Got lots of NHL news to discuss, so make sure that you stay tuned in to the episode to the end. Before we go ahead and get started, make sure that you're following the Hockey Talk with TG podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, and subscribe to the YouTube channel. We're with you every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 11:30 a.m. to noon Central Time, 12:30 p.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern Time. So you want to make sure that you're staying tuned in to every episode of the Hockey Talk with TG podcast for the latest NHL news, teams, players, stats, and all that other good stuff I bring on the podcast. But without further ado, we're going to go ahead and get right into the NHL news. So this was announced on Monday. Aaron Ekblad will be suspended for 20 games without pay due to a violation of the NHLPA performance enhancing substance programs, and this suspension will be for the remaining 18 games, which is probably now 17 games since this was announced on Monday, and the Panthers played the Bruins on Tuesday. For the remaining 17 regular season games and the first 2 games of the Stanley Cup playoffs. So, of course, that's going to feel tough for the Florida Panthers right there, and his absence. Of course, he plays top role player for the Florida Panthers, and he plays significant minutes in all situations, including on the power play. And with his absence, that will weaken the Panthers' blue line. But they couldn't pick the better time to get Seth Jones from the Chicago Blackhawks. So this was on March 1st. Panthers acquired Seth Jones from the Chicago Blackhawks, along with a 2026 fourth-round pick for goaltender Spencer Knight and a 2027 first-round pick. And the addition of Seth Jones will certainly bolster their blue line. At least I think it will, because when Seth Jones was on the Chicago Blackhawks, or during his 4 seasons with the Blackhawks, his numbers have been pretty horrific. But I guess that's going to somewhat change now that he's on a winning team, and he kind of expressed frustration of wanting to leave out of Chicago. And the Blackhawks granted his wish, and obviously Seth Jones probably wasn't going to be a good fit for the Blackhawks rebuild anyway. So he needed to go to a winning team, and he did. And best of luck to him on the Florida Panthers. But with Aaron Ekblad being absent from the team, Seth Jones is going to be playing that first defensive pair with Gustav Forsling, who also will play on that first power play unit, which is usually where Aaron Ekblad plays for the Florida Panthers. But Seth Jones will be taking the spot. So, like I said, couldn't pick a better timing to get Seth Jones from the Chicago Blackhawks. But despite acquiring Seth Jones, Aaron Ekblad's suspension will probably still weaken the Panthers' blue line, and of course other defensemen are going to have to step up because he's suspended. But I still think the Panthers will be a playoff team with even with Aaron Ekblad gone. And not only did they get Seth Jones, but they got Brad Marchand from the Boston Bruins. I was about to say Florida Panthers, but he's currently on the Florida Panthers. So they got Brad Marchand from the Boston Bruins. So obviously trying to go back-to-back and win back-to-back Stanley Cups. So we'll see how that will play out. But speaking of Brad Marchand, I want to talk about Brad Marchand, Sam Bennett, and Matthew Tkachuk all on the same team. So fans have been speculating a possible line between Brad Marchand, Sam Bennett, and Matthew Tkachuk come playoff time. And despite Brad Marchand and Matthew Tkachuk both being out with upper body injuries. So we'll talk about Brad Marchand. So, of course, he's a veteran in the game. They got Brad Marchand at the trade deadline to bolster their offensive depth and bring additional experience to the roster. And, of course, we all know Sam Bennett, a key player for the Florida Panthers to watch, and his versatility allows them to adapt to various line combinations. And we all know the role that Matthew Tkachuk plays. We've seen him play the same role in Four Nations with Team USA. He's been a driving force for the Florida Panthers, and he played a pivotal role for the Florida Panthers, especially in the playoffs and in general. and his aggressive style complements both Brad Marchand and Sam Bennett. And of course, as you guys didn't know, Brad Marchand and Sam Bennett previously played with each other for Team Canada at the Four Nations, but now they're going to be playing with each other on the Florida Panthers. And before, they teamed up with each other for Team Canada at the Four Nations, and of course, Panthers teammates. I think Sam Bennett, he injured Brad Marchand at one point during the Stanley Cup playoffs when the Panthers and Bruins were going at it. I don't know if it was, I think it was from 2024. I know they went at it in those back-to-back years, 2023, when the Panthers upset the Bruins, winning in Game 7 in overtime on a goal from Carter Verhaeghe, and the Bruins for the President's Trophy. Winners that year in 2023 had the best season. And, of course, in 2024, Panthers beat the Bruins, I believe, in, 5-6 games to go on to the Eastern Conference Final, and then go on to the Stanley Cup Final and win the Stanley Cup. So, yeah, it's been a lot of history. Well, not a lot of history, but maybe some recent history between Brad Marchand and Sam Bennett, but no doubt in mind they're going to squash the beef. They were already teammates for Team Canada at the Four Nations, and they're going to play together on the Florida Panthers. And I know and this is what Sam Bennett had to share to his story about Brad Marchand being on the Florida Panthers. He said, quote, "a couple of scumbags." So he was referring to himself and Brad Marchand when he said that. So that's what he said on his Instagram story. For what I saw. But let me know you guys' thoughts on how you feel about Brad Marchand, Sam Bennett, and Matthew Tkachuk all being on the same team. Could we see a line between them? I would love to see it. One thing that that Brad Marchand, Sam Bennett, and Matthew Tkachuk being on the same team, it reminds me of the Hanson brothers from the movie Slapshot. You guys didn't see the movie Slapshot. The Hanson brothers were known for their physicality, the grit and grind, especially in that scene where Reggie had let him go out on the ice. Of course, Reggie was played by Paul Newman, and they were going out on the ice, and they were obliterating everybody that they see. They took out the players, I don't know. I think they took out the refs. I don't know, but they were just a force to be reckoned with in that scene where the Hanson brothers were going out on the ice for the first time and just literally taking down everybody. And we kind of saw that from the Kachucks, sort of, and the Four Nations face-off. But we kind of refer to the Kachuk brothers as the Bastard brothers from the movie Mighty Ducks, which hopefully you guys see that movie, because as a kid, if you grew up watching or playing hockey, you had to grow up watching Mighty Ducks. I mean, that was just a kid's movie. But yeah, that's kind of what I thought about when I saw Brad Marchand, Sam Bennett, and Matthew Tkachuk on the same team. It kind of reminded me of the Hanson brothers from the movie Slapshot. But let me know what you guys think about Brad Marchand, Sam Bennett, and Matthew Tkachuk all being on the same team. Could we see a first line? Well, not a first line, but can we see a line in general from them come Stanley Cup playoff time? I would love to see, but let me know you guys' thoughts in the comments down below. All right, now we're going to talk about Nathan MacKinnon's 1,000 NHL point milestone he had on Monday against the Chicago Blackhawks. So, of course, he only needed 2 assists in the game to reach 1,000 career points. Going into that game, he had 999 career points, so he just needed 1 point to reach 1,000, but he, got 2 assists in the game to reach 1,001 points. And he became the 100th player in NHL history to reach the mark. MacKinnon was held off the score sheet in yesterday's game when the Avalanche took on the Minnesota Wild. 2-1 shootout loss for the Avalanche, but obviously you would rather get the 1,000 point plateau at home than on the road. And Nathan MacKinnon is the 3rd player in Avalanche/Nordiques history to achieve 1,000 points, joining Joe Sakic and Peter Stastny. And, of course, Nathan MacKinnon assisted on both of the goals from the Avalanche, from Martin Necas and Arturi Lehkonen. The game was a 3-0 shutout win, but I'm not really counting the empty netter. But he assisted it on Martin Necas and Arturi Lehkonen's goal, with Arturi Lehkonen's goal marking Nathan MacKinnon's 1,000 career point. In the first period of that game, Nathan MacKinnon thought he reached the milestone right there, but the Blackhawks eventually challenged the play for offside, and it was offside, so it didn't count. And in the third period, Artturi Lehkonen scored. Nathan MacKinnon got his 1,000th career point, and that goal did count. So it wasn't waved offside in that one, but everybody thought he had it in the first period, but the Blackhawks had challenged the play for offside, and it was offside, so it didn't count as a goal, but, got it in the third period. So can't never say never, I guess. So, And the victory over the Blackhawks marked the Avalanche's sixth consecutive win, and they were a perfect 6-0-0 during their six-game homestand. They're currently 39-24-3 of the season, third place in the Central Division. They did play the Minnesota Wild last night, so back-to-back games against Central Division opponents. But it was a 2-1 shootout loss for the Colorado Avalanche against the Minnesota Wild last night. But they're 3 points ahead of them for third place in the Central Division. And what a game from Scott Wedgwood we saw in that game on Monday against the Chicago Blackhawks, making 20 saves, earning his second shutout of the season. He had some highlight reel saves in this one, including denying Connor Bedard with the double stack, going old school Dominic Hasek right there with the double pack save. Or double pass save, I should say, instead of double packed. Going old school Dominic Hasek with the double pass save. And then he robbed Nick Foligno with a huge save in the game. And he denied Frank Nazar on a breakaway. So it was really the Scott Wedgwood show in the Mile High City. And Nathan MacKinnon is the fourth fastest active player to reach 1,000 career points, achieving a milestone in his 856th career game, following Connor McDavid, who got it done in 659 games. Sidney Crosby got it done in 757 games, and Evgeny Malkin got it done in 848 games. All right, now we're going to talk about the New Jersey Devils season. Do they finish the season strong, or do they start to slip? I know they won 5-3 last night against the Columbus Blue Jackets, which, P.S., that was a critical game for both teams. Both teams needed a win. They were looking for a win into this game, because going into this game, the Devils were 4 points over the Blue Jackets for third place in the Metropolitan Division. So this was a critical game for both teams. Devils won 5-3 against the Blue Jackets, which extended their lead to 6 points over the Blue Jackets for third place in the Metropolitan Division. So I know they won last night, but can they keep up with the consistent ways and not let their foot off the gas pedal? I say that because they lost two of their best players, Jack Hughes and Dougie Hamilton. So, of course, Jack Hughes, superstar player for the New Jersey Devils, he underwent shoulder surgery on March 5th. And this was after he was injured in a collision with his teammate for the Team USA during the Four Nations face-off, Jack Eichel. Jack Eichel did apologize afterwards after the game. He did apologize. He shared his thoughts on the game. So he didn't mean to injure Jack Hughes. It was just an accident right there. But obviously, it is tough losing your star player. It's got to be tough for Jack Eichel, because the reason why I say it's got to be tough for Jack Eichel is because he teamed up with Jack Hughes for Team USA during the Four Nations face-off, and he had a collision with Jack Hughes. Jack Hughes ran into the boards in the game against the Golden Knights, therefore injuring his shoulder. He's going to be out for the remainder of the season, and this does hurt the Devils' offense. And for Dougie Hamilton, he suffered a leg injury during the Devils game against the Dallas Stars, and the injury occurred late in the third period, and Dougie Hamilton did not return to the game, and his absence will be a significant blow to the Devils' defensive lineup. But despite that, I feel like the Devils, they can still be a playoff team. Obviously, it does hurt losing Jack Hughes and Dougie Hamilton, but I still think the Devils could still be a playoff team. Probably won't have a deep playoff run as fans pretty much expected before Jack Hughes and Dougie Hamilton went down with an injury. At some point, Jacob Markstrom was out for 4 or 6 weeks. He missed the Four Nations. They got him back. So it's just been a lot of injury problems of late for the New Jersey Devils, but I still think they can finish the season strong, but they're just going to have to stay consistent. They're going to have to earn as many points as they can. 16 games left in the season for the New Jersey Devils, and some of these games will be against playoff teams as well, top tier teams I might add. So it's all about finishing strong, not let your foot off the gas pedal. Don't let the injuries do hurt the Devils lineup, I will say that, but it's all about, having a consistent game and don't let up. That's all I can say. That's all I can say about that. Let me know you guys' thoughts on that. Do you think the Devils will finish these last 16 games of their season strong, or will they start to slip and go down in the standings? Let me know you guys' thoughts about that in the comments down below. All right, so now we're going to talk about a potential Jonathan Toews comeback. So, of course, we have discussed this on the Hockey Talk with TG podcast before. And, of course, Jonathan Toews took some time away from hockey to focus on his health. He went on a quote-unquote healing journey in India to focus on his health and, take some time off from hockey. And this included, like, yoga, meditation, having a strict diet, and other stuff to focus on your health. And Jonathan Toews has not officially retired from the NHL. He said in an interview with Mark Lashers from The Athletic, and I quote, that there's still something left in the tank. However, you cannot expect Jonathan Toews to sign with the Chicago Blackhawks. That's not happening, unfortunately. As a Blackhawks fan, I would love for it to happen, but Jonathan Toews has even said himself that he wasn't going to come back to the Chicago Blackhawks. And after his last season with the Blackhawks, which of course was during the 2022-23 season, Blackhawks general manager Kyle Davidson said that the team would not re-sign Jonathan Toews. So his time in Chicago is over, so don't expect him to come back to the Chicago Blackhawks. But he could be a great fit for his hometown team, the Winnipeg Jets. I can see him being a great fit for the Colorado Avalanche. And I think that's it. I think that's about it. Either the Winnipeg Jets or Colorado Avalanche, maybe the Minnesota Wild. Not sure, but the Winnipeg Jets and the Colorado Avalanche for sure is how I see Jonathan Toews being a good fit for. And of course, he did miss the 2020-2021 season as well due to COVID. I think he tested positive for COVID. And of course, 2020 was the start of COVID, obviously. So he did test positive for COVID, I believe. Therefore, him missing the 2020-2021 season. Of course, he missed the 2023-24 season. Of course, still focusing on the health and, trying to get better. He'll turn 37 years old, I believe, in April. So, but he still believes that there's something left in the tank. He believes that there's still more to give for the game before officially hanging up the skates. And he has resumed skating again. You guys didn't see that Instagram video from his former teammate Daniel Carcillo. He was out on the ice with him and his kids and, just practicing again, trying to get back into his form. And he's probably not going to be prime Jonathan Toews, what we saw on the Chicago Blackhawks, but he's trying to get back to his form, trying to get back, to being the Jonathan Toews that we all knew, that we all seen before. And whatever team he chooses to sign with, wish him nothing but the best. I wish he can come back to the Chicago Blackhawks, but obviously that is not going to be the case. But wish them nothing but the best on whatever team he decides to play for. All right, NHL games on the slate for today. So there's only 4 games on the slate for Wednesday, starting with the Buffalo Sabres taking on the Detroit Red Wings at 6:30 p.m. Central Time. This will air on TNT, True TV, and HBO Max. Last meeting of the season between these two teams. The Red Wings won 2 out of 3 of these meets. They won 2-1 in Detroit on November 2nd and 6-5 in the shootout on December 9th. And Buffalo won 5-3 on October 26th. Followed by the Vancouver Canucks taking on the Calgary Flames at 8 o'clock p.m. Central Time. Last meeting of the season between the two teams. The Flames won 2 out of 3 of these meetings. They won 6-5 in overtime on October 9th, and they won 3-1 on New Year's Eve. And the Canucks won 3-1 on November 12th. So we'll see if the Flames could win this next game at home against Vancouver. Obviously, these are two teams that are trying. The Flames are currently in their wild card spot in the Western Conference. Canucks are trying to get in the wild card spot in the Western Conference. So it seemed like during these final 15, 17 games or however many games or so, it feels like these games pretty much matter for all these teams, not just Western Conference, but for Eastern Conference, all teams. It feels like these games absolutely matter. So you're going to have to put on your best effort in these games as well. And in the second of a TNT doubleheader, we got the Anaheim Ducks taking on Utah Hockey Club at 9 o'clock p.m. Central Time. Like I said, this will air on TNT, True TV, and HBO Max. Last meeting of the season between the two teams. Ducks won the first two meets against Utah Hockey Club. They won 5-4 in overtime at home on October 16th, and they won 5-4 in the shootout in Utah on December 22nd. And then the last game of the night, we got the Montreal Canadiens taking on the Seattle Kraken at 9:30 p.m. Central Time. Last meeting of the season between the two teams. The Kraken won 8-2 in Montreal on October 29th. So we'll see if the Kraken can complete the series sweep between the two teams. Of course, Montreal is playing a back-to-back set. They won 4-2 in Vancouver yesterday. So they'll be looking to complete the back-to-back set with a win. Alright guys, that is going to do it for this episode of the Hockey Talk with TG podcast. Thank you guys for tuning in as always. We didn't go over 30 minutes. We actually stayed under 30 minutes on this one, which is how it should be because this is, a 30-minute show. But sometimes we won't reach exactly 30 minutes in this show. But we did stay under 30 minutes in this one. That's, great to see. So whether we go at 30 minutes or under 30 minutes, it's totally fine. So, but this one, we're probably not going to reach 30 minutes. But that is all the news I have to discuss for you guys today. Like I said, thank you for tuning in. And make sure that you're following the Hockey Talk with TG podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, and subscribe to the YouTube channel for which you every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 11:30 a.m. to noon Central Time, 12:30 p.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern Time. Both of you guys have a great rest of your day. God first as always. Be blessed. I will see you guys Friday for another episode of the Hockey Talk with TG podcast. Take care.